Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome. You're listening to Perfectly Healthy and Toned Radio with your host, Darren Fat Man McDuck. And now, prepare to get fat. Hey, what's cracking, what's popping, and all that? This is Darren Fat Man McDuffie having another episode of Perfectly Healthy and Toned Radio. So welcome back. And tonight we'll have Melissa Binkley on discussing the BodyLove Method. Should be a good show. I'm looking forward to it. But before I do, I'll have a few announcements to make. If you have not gone to iTunes and downloaded the show, please do so. I know a lot of times we have to get off the shows early, or sometimes we just can't make the show. And that is your way of keeping up with what's going on. So go to iTunes. You can type in the Fat Man Radio Show in the search bar, and you're able to download the show. Now, Melissa's on tonight, and next week is another, really important show that I think everybody should attend, and that show deals with gluten sensitivity. I've made no bones about being gluten sensitive, and I quit eating bread a long, long time ago, and I've had some miraculous effects from doing that. I've never really had to worry about my weight, and I've also been able to kind of put my arthritis, which flared up on me when I played basketball for many years, into remission, and I don't think I'll ever go back to eating bread. But Dr. O'Brien is an expert in gluten and gluten sensitivity, and he'll be on the show next week, next Wednesday, and actually an earlier show, so that show will be at 6. Couldn't get him to schedule for 8. He's a busy guy, but he is going to come on at 6 o'clock, so that'll be a special time. So tonight we have Melissa Binkley on, and she will be discussing the BodyLove Method. And I met Melissa about 2 years ago at Miranda Farm. She was having a seminar, and our views kind of were very, very similar. And I always told myself if I got a radio show or got a chance to speak somewhere or do a seminar, I might invite her there to speak as well. So I have her tonight, and she's going to be discussing the BodyLove Method. So give me a few seconds, and I will bring Melissa on. Melissa, what's up? Welcome to the Fat Man Radio Show. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much, Darren, for having me on. I'm really excited for this evening and to chat with you. I'm really blessed to have met you that time a couple of years ago, and really look forward to this evening.
Yeah, great. I remember attending your seminar at Miranda Farms, and I was so scared to say anything because I was thinking that I would steal your thunder, but you kind of let me share a little bit of my background and share that with the people that attended there, and I never got a chance to thank you for that, but I really, really thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. You know, I believe that we're all in this together, and that we can only build off of each other, and that if we think of each other as companions instead of competitors, that's really going to be the difference in bringing this health and this wellness and this love that we need to the world. So I was happy to let you share, and I always, I feel like that's something that we all need to do and think about on a greater scale, is to really, allow people to share and really and come together to create this movement and this force.
Yeah, we there's a lot of change we have to make. I don't know. I attended the GMO. There was a GMO rally last Thursday, and there was a great attendance, but there was a lot of people that weren't there, and I just think that that's a very, very important issue, and a lot of people are still living at that unconscious level, and I really feel that we need to be a little bit more conscious, and those of us that are out there that are conscious have a duty to kind of wake the other people up around us. So I'm very glad, again, that you're on the show tonight. And for the listeners out there, can you share with us your journey? I know from looking at your pictures, I looked at your pictures I Googled you and saw some pictures of you being a fitness competitor. Can you share with us your background and how you kind of came to start doing what you're doing now?
Sure, absolutely. I have a very sordid background. It starts from when I was very young, and I'll skip some of that stuff for right now and get into the point where I started competing when I was in my early 20s because I had an eating disorder before that. So I thought after I thought I had healed my eating disorder, I was both anorexic and bulimic, and I had gotten my eating disorder because of some traumatic experiences in my childhood. And so I thought I had healed that eating disorder, and so I decided to go into competition thinking that I could control my food in another way. And what it really turned out to be was that I really hadn't healed my eating disorder or healed my mind. I had just transposed it into a different disorder. So then I turned my eating disorder and the self-love issues and all those things that I had inside me into something where I over-exercised every day, where I was starving my body in the name of fitness and health. And I was in magazines. I looked beautiful. People would say, oh, my gosh, I wish I looked like you, but they never knew the demons that were hiding inside of me, the way that I felt about myself, that I would be hiding in my closet eating food, and then I had started eating the eating disorder all over again. I was doing all of these unhealthy things for my body to try to look a certain way, and it was truly because I didn't love myself. And I was trying to prove to the rest of the world that I was worthy when I wasn't, when I felt like I wasn't. And so I spent many years on this battling, this train back and forth of the unhealthy eating and doing it in the name of fitness and all this exercise. And I got a power from being on the stage, but then at the same time, I got this worse sense of self-worth from all of the judges and from all of the people, and then feeling like I was this small. And when I'd look in the mirror, I would see myself, and all I would see was what the negative thoughts were that other people said because I wasn't perfect on stage or because of this, that I looked like somebody that was in the top, echelon of the world. I mean, my body looked great, to what everybody else thought. So from after years of competing, what happened was I ended up with adrenal fatigue, hypothyroidism, and low testosterone. So I went to see a doctor, and they put me on testosterone shots. They put me on Synthroid, and, I was trying to do all of these things to get better and get healthy. I went vegan. I did all this crazy stuff, and I was still trying to compete. And then I finally realized, I woke up one day and I said, I have to stop the insanity. I'm like, I have to get well. I can't do this anymore. I did this in the name of health and fitness. At that time, I was a personal trainer, and I was trying to, I'm trying to train people. I knew that it wasn't working, and I just wasn't happy with my results of how I felt as a health and wellness professional, and I wasn't happy with the things that I was teaching my clients about food and nutrition that were bull crap. I mean, it was really a bunch of crap. So I went back to school to heal myself holistically. I went to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and I learned how to heal my body. I no longer had the hypothyroidism. I no longer had the adrenal fatigue. I fixed my testosterone, and it was all food and starvation related. And that's right when you met me, was right when I had come out of IIN. And since then, my transformation has come from not just talking about nutrition, but I went and learned what I found was that even though I had fixed my body holistically and I felt healthier, but I still had a mindset problem. I still didn't love myself. I still had a real problem seeing who I was on the inside. I hated looking at myself in the mirror. I had problems with my body image. I had problems with my self-esteem. And I started to become in a shell, and I didn't want people to be seen. And so then I realized that I really had to work on my mind and shift my mindset. And that's where I went to and started to learn how to do that. And then once I did that, that's how I ended up coming to what I do now, which is my pure body love. And the BodyLove Method, this pure body love, is what it takes is my journey and how I healed myself holistically, but also how I changed my mind and how I changed my subconscious and really healed that so that I can help women around the world to really change how they feel about their bodies and what they do.
Yeah. So are you a part of when you say you had eating disorders, you say you didn't love yourself, I've kind of bumped into that too when I was working with women as well. But would you say you're part of the minority, or is that the majority? Are the majority of women out there have problems with these with body issues or feeling worthy? What is your opinion on that?
The actual statistic is 91% of women in the United States have problems with their body. 91% are trying to do something to change it and are not happy. So that statistically is huge. Because now that I speak across the country, when I stand in a crowd of 100 people and I speak out of that, only 9 people are happy with themselves and I'm one of them, that's really scary. So, yes, it's a huge issue across the United States, and it's definitely a part of our media and what we have done to ourselves, we pass down to our children. So I'm definitely adamant about changing that in my lifetime. I'm going to change that number to 9%. And I'm adamant about passing that down to our next generation so that they don't have to grow up feeling the way that most of us adult women feel about ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember doing some research when I worked with women, and I think it was by the time women are, I want to say 13, 14 years old, at least half of them are already having body image issues. They don't like their body. So I think that's just a big, big problem. Now, you mentioned having adrenal fatigue and having all of these things, and you mentioned just looking good. Like you're on stage, you look good. And what I find with people is that they think that they tend to connotate what you look on the outside versus what you're really feeling on the inside. So how can you just talk about that a little bit? Like you were a fitness competitor and you look great on the outside, but in the inside you were suffering.
Oh, absolutely. This is one of the biggest things that I think is so powerful that people need to understand. People looked at me and they saw on the outside, they thought I was healthy. They saw this thin, muscular, ripped person. They're like, oh my gosh, I want that body. I want to be like her. And I was completely the opposite on the inside. And I tell people now, I say, you know what, you never know what if that person is healthy or not by looking at them from the outside. You could actually have a person that is slightly overweight. It could be much healthier than I ever was. It's really about not a perception of how you see things on the outside, but really what's working on the inside. And it's a huge, big misconception, and it's something that society has fed to us that, oh, well, if you're skinny or if you're muscular or if you're a bodybuilder, then you must be healthy. Well, I'll tell you right now, it's one of the most unhealthy professions in the world, and it's not at all as healthy as people think it is. And so people strive to be this perfection or to have this body that, in the end, if they're over-exercising and they're starving their bodies to get that, then they're not doing themselves any good. They're only damaging themselves because it's really causing more problems on the inside, and they'll eventually figure that out in some way or another because the body's going to break down.
Yeah. You also mentioned having adrenal fatigue, and for the listeners out there, I don't know if they're up on the science behind adrenal fatigue and the science of women having low testosterone. Women do have testosterone, but can you kind of talk about those things, adrenal fatigue and the low testosterone that you were obviously treated for and how they affected you?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So a lot of women will go to the doctor. The doctor will tell them that they have, a thyroid problem or they have something, this and that, and all these different hormonal problems. But usually what I have found that there's always a root cause to what causes you to have the hormonal issues. Now with adrenal fatigue, what adrenal fatigue is basically very similar to, most people have heard of chronic fatigue syndrome. So you feel when you wake up in the morning, you're already tired. And then maybe sometimes you'll have a spike in the afternoon or a dip in the afternoon. And then when you go to bed at night, all of a sudden you feel wide awake. And you're like, oh, and then you can't sleep. And then it's this cycle. And your adrenals are going at a pace that's different than the natural circadian rhythm of life. You should normally have a higher level of cortisol. Cortisol is our flight or